Okay, so look at here. The caption says, "Don't let school officials gas you up to be against your kids. They are your kids. Be their voice. I am for the child." All right, let's dive into this topic. Let's hear what they got to say.
We called mom because sometimes that helps de-escalate her. It's not my fault.
What did she just say?
I can never tell.
What is she saying now? What is she saying now?
She's saying that's not my fault.
Okay, so what is the, let's follow up on that. What is the that's not my fault? What did she just say? I know she said that's not my fault. What is the that's not my fault? Is anybody engaging her or talking to her and asking her what's
right
not
now
her
I'm
fault?
Talking to you.
No, I don't care. I don't care about that. You want to talk to me? I'm not there. Let's talk to her. Who's going to engage her? All behavior is communication. Listen to me. You're not the only person. You're not the only person with who's educated in this. Don't have me match credentials, and you don't know who I really am. So listen to me. All behavior is communication. She's communicating. Who's listening to her? I don't need you to talk to me. I need somebody to communicate with her, because when I get up there, she's not in trouble with me. Because I see a lot of ignoring my daughter. My daughter is an active girl, a 5-year-old. No one is communicating with her. You want me to suppress the behavior, but we're not getting to the root of the issue. She said that's not my fault. I don't hear anyone else talking to her. And you can't do it all, Miss Drake. Even though they may want to put it all on you, you can't do it all. So who do you have to support you? Who should be talking to my daughter? So let's engage that conversation. Don't talk to me. I'll listen. I'll stay on the phone with you. Ask her what's not her fault.
Okay. All right.
Come on. Let's work together. Let's go. Don't talk to me. Talk to her. I'll listen.
Okay. Ava. Hi. Okay.
Talk to her like she's your daughter.
Can you tell me what happened, Ava?
Oh, shit. Damn it.
All right, we're going to dive into this. Before we dive into this topic, I want to preface that I am a former preschool teacher who has worked hard to prepare students between the ages of 3 and 5 for kindergarten. I am also a parent and youth advocate outside of my profession as an educator. First, I want to emphasize that the school system is fucked up, for lack of better words. We have teachers out there who would do whatever it takes to provide safe and healthy learning environments for students. We also have teachers who are not culturally competent nor experienced enough to address behavioral issues inside of the classroom. Today, we've recognized that an asset-based approach and trauma-informed approach is what some teachers are lacking. This makes things even more complex. But hear me out. Sometimes, even when that is the case, there are other factors besides the teacher's level of experience or performance that play a part in making the teacher's job even harder. In this video, I will cover some of those things to provide parents with a more well-rounded perspective. I believe that stronger relationships between parents and teachers are necessary, which is why I position myself as a parent and youth advocate. Someone needs to find a creative way to bridge the gap between teachers, parents, administrators, and community stakeholders. Hopefully, highlighting this incident will help us all find better ways to create and maintain healthy partnerships. I'm going to be as candid as possible while dissecting this clip. In this video, you will see me actively trying to explain this situation from a teacher's perspective. I will also be providing additional insight from the point of view of a professional who has worked in the field and who has countless experiences that lead to an array of mixed emotions when viewing this clip. My aim is to provoke thought. Please feel free to share your thoughts and engage with me in the comment section. Also, be sure to subscribe for more content like this. So, a few things. Actually, a lot of things. But I'm going to go down the list because I got a lot to say about this topic. Okay, so apparently, from what I gathered from the video, just looking at it head on, This teacher, obviously a preschool teacher or a kindergarten teacher based on the age of the child. Child is 5 years old. This teacher calls this child's father to help de-escalate a situation that's going on in the classroom. Somehow, some way, that was perceived as the teacher trying to convince the father to go against their child. Now, I have a problem with that because if the woman did not call you saying, hey, listen, I need you to go against your child. If she started like, hey, listen, there's something going on. Usually I call mom to de-escalate. I can't get in contact with mom. I wanted to call you to see if you could help de-escalate the situation. That doesn't sound like a teacher that is calling so that she can convince the parents to go against their child. That just sounds like a teacher who has multiple students in her classroom. She's having an issue with one student, and if she can get the parent involved to help her de-escalate that situation, then she can get not only that child back on track, but all of the other children back on track. Now, one thing that parents don't really always keep in mind is the fact that although you send your children to school and you want them to have the best educational experience they possibly can, you got to realize that your child is not that only child in the classroom, right? Your child is not the only child in the classroom. So one thing that I kept hearing the parents say, are you engaging her? Are you talking to her? Are you listening to her? Are you asking her questions? When you have 20 to 30 and sometimes even 35 children in the class, nobody has time for that. That's just that. Nobody has time for that. What needs to happen is everybody needs to be on one accord so that we can move through the day expeditiously. Let me clarify. Okay. I'm gonna clarify. And the best way for me to clarify what I mean by we ain't got time for that is just to give you guys a scenario, right? So we're in a classroom. We have a bunch of other 5-year-olds. We may have some children that are even younger in that class if it's a pre-K class. If it's a kindergarten class, then we have 5 and 6 years old. Right? Now, y'all heard me talk about the ratios, right? So at best, this could be a class of 15. At worst, it could be a class of 35, right? So you got that one child there that we're supposed to give this special attention to in a moment of crisis while we're watching other kids, right? Active supervision is a framework used by school administrators and teachers. By law, teachers are supposed to enforce specific criteria that is outlined in the active supervision framework. This framework accounts for the supervision of all students in the classroom at all times. Here's a quick glance at the active supervision framework. As you can see, it has 6 components. I'm not going to go in detail about the components, but as you can see, they are making us evaluate everything, right? From the way we set up the environment, to the way we position the staff, to us scanning and counting the children, to us making sure that we're listening to what's going on in our environment, that we're also anticipating students' behavior, which means we have to be super proactive and super observant. And it also gives us criteria for how we are supposed to engage the children and also redirect behaviors, right? And so this is the framework that teachers are using to supervise multiple children, not just one child, multiple children at a given time. And usually there's just one other staff member besides the teacher inside of the classroom. I'm giving you this example just so you can see. So let's say that child that's having that moment, maybe they're in the block area, they might be doing something like knocking down other children's houses that they're building. They might be throwing blocks at other children, which is dangerous. They might be climbing on the furniture in that area, what have you, right? As a teacher, me stopping what I'm doing to go over there to redirect your child multiple times to the point where they're not listening and now I have to call you. That's actually taking time away from all of the other kids. Now imagine at the same time that I'm supposed to be, or the teacher is supposed to be over there hearing your child expressing themselves, while the teacher is supposed to be communicating with your child and all the things that you expect that teacher to do in that moment. Another child has an accident on themselves. They pee on themselves. So what you're telling me is I'm not supposed to get that child cleaned up and in fresh new clothes, dry clothes. I'm not supposed to do that because what I'm supposed to do is utilize my time to communicate with a child that's clearly not interested in listening to me because she said, I'm not listening. That's what you want teachers to do. So now she's on the phone with you having this hostile moment. And guess what? As soon as she get off the phone with you, she's going to have to explain to that child's parent why that child was in wet clothes for anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes, maybe even longer, depending on how long it took for her to de-escalate that one child. How is that fair? So other people's kids are supposed to be in wet clothes. Other people's kids are supposed to be ignored so that I can focus on your child? That's not what teachers get paid for. That's not. that should not be a part of it. You know, sometimes it's things that happen that you could not control and you have to, put out fires. You have to go ahead and move with the current. I get it. But like that's something that can be avoided. It could be avoided just with a little bit of help and support from the parent. At any given moment, anything can happen inside of the classroom. Teachers have rules in place to keep students safe and aware of their surroundings so that in the event of an emergency, every child can be protected. Pre-K teachers are trained to not force compliance, but to encourage it. If a child is not willfully listening to the teacher or following instructions, that could potentially put that child and others at risk. There are usually cozy corners in pre-K classrooms. Children use those spaces to regulate their emotions, but if the child chooses not to go to the cozy corner, teachers cannot force them to go. We can only encourage it. Teachers also cannot put children in timeout anymore by law. That's considered corporal punishment. Now, sometimes children do have moments when they have meltdowns, they have breakdowns, they have situations where they don't want to listen. And yeah, sometimes a third party is needed, right? So the fact that he thought that his child was supposed to, get like this like special attention at that moment instead of him helping the teacher, that is very, very concerning to me. There is absolutely nothing wrong with a parent de-escalating a child in the moment and then requesting a meeting with the teacher to discuss the child's patterns and the teacher's strategies at a later date. So I want to revisit that point in a little bit, but right now I want to move on to the next thing, right? So we already talked about how the teacher clearly was just calling for de-escalation, not to turn the parents against the kids, right? We also talked about how there are multiple students in the classroom, not just that one child, right? Let's talk about the conversation, right? One thing that was funny to me that stood out to me like a lot is that the child said, it's not my fault, right? Okay, so the parent, you heard the child say, it's not my fault. You questioned that, right? But the thing that's concerning to me is that the parent heard her say, it's not my fault. But the parent did not hear her say what she said next, which is, I'm not listening to you. She said that to the teacher loud and clear as day.
Is anybody engaging her or talking to her and asking her what's not her fault?
I'm talking to you.
No. I don't care. I don't care about that.
Now, that parent to me had selective hearing because you heard her say it's not that fault, not her fault, and you challenged the teacher to explore that, right? But when you heard your child say to the teacher, "I'm not listening to you," you failed to explore that. Now she's 5. Why is she saying "I'm not listening to you" to her teacher is, kind of like concerning. But the fact that she knows that she can now say "I'm not listening to you" to her teacher because she hears her parent advocating for her when she's dead wrong, that just makes it even better for her, right? It makes it even easier for her to do what it is that she has to do. So again, the parent heard her say it's not my fault, and he wanted the teacher to explore that. But when the child said, "I'm not listening to you," he didn't explore that further. Again, classroom rules are in place to keep all students safe. Here is the framework for classroom rules in most, if not all, pre-K classrooms. Kindergarten rules are usually similar. Usually, preschool rules are something along the lines of this: we are nice to others, we listen to the teachers, we help keep our classroom clean, we play safely. These are all reasonable rules. They are also developmentally appropriate. Pre-K students usually only have 4 classroom rules to follow throughout the school year. Students who master these rules usually do extremely well once they get to kindergarten. So for me, it leads me into my next point, which is he talked about the fact that she can't do everything on her own and that she's only one person. She can't do anything on her own. And then he asked her, like, boldly, "Who's supporting you?" Sir, that's what the fuck she called you for. She calls you for support. She knows that she can't do everything on her own, which is why she stopped what she was doing and she called you for support. Now, one thing I don't get is why parents believe that teachers are interested in calling them for every little thing. Teachers only call parents on the phone in the middle of class while they are monitoring other children when it's the last resort. When things have gotten so bad that it's nothing that they can do. That's when they pick up the phone and that's when they call parents. Their first resort is not going to call the parent, is not going to be to call the parents for a number of different reasons. For one, classroom management. If I'm the teacher and I'm standing there in front of you, of course, I want to make sure that your children are listening to me, that your children are following directions, that your children are safe, and that your children are learning, right? So I can't do that if I don't establish a culture of my word being my bond. Meaning, when I say something, I mean it. When I put a consequence in place, I'm going to reinforce it. I'm going to follow through with it, right? And so I'm pretty sure, because I've been in this position as a teacher plenty of times, I'm pretty sure that before that teacher called that parent, she used every strategy she could possibly think of. And those things did not work for that specific child. I can guarantee you that's what happened. And then what she did is she decided, okay, these things aren't working. I can't hit the child. I can't do any form of corporal punishment to the child. So let me call this parent so that I can talk to the parent. We can get on one accord. They can de-escalate the situation. And then I could, again, tend to all of the other kids that I have to tend to, right? Because we all know that usually in a preschool classroom, the ratio is 1 to 15. So at the least, that teacher has 15 students on her roster. At the most, with pre-K, she can go up to 20. If this is a kindergarten classroom, because again, we don't know with the age being 5, she has at least 30 children in the classroom, and it could go up to 35. So keep those things in mind, right? Another thing, you don't know how many of the students that's on that teacher's roster You don't know how many of those students have IEPs. You don't know how many IEPs that teacher is managing. And I can tell you that school administrators, they do not always monitor how many students with IEPs they are putting in the same class. They don't. Okay. Sometimes, especially in pre-K, sometimes that's when we find out if students need IEPs. So they will come in without the official documentation, and it's up to us to observe each child well enough to be able to determine whether or not those students need early intervention services. And like I said, some of the students do have IEPs already. And so you don't know how many of the children on her roster already have the official documentation. You also don't know how many people on her roster are gearing up to get evaluated. You also don't know if maybe your child needs to be evaluated. So while you're talking about the teacher and how she's handling her workload, you don't even know what's on her plate. You don't know what an IEP is, I'm just going to break it down really quick the best way I can, right? An IEP is an individualized education plan, and usually kids that need additional services such as speech, occupational therapy, things that are in that realm. Usually that's when they have extra services, extra people come in, specialists come in to help them develop in the ways that they need to develop based on what's outlined in their IEP. So when teachers have children with IEPs in their classroom, not only are they responsible for providing high quality instruction for all the kids, but they also have to manage the schedule that each child with an IEP is on, right? And so that involves them tracking when the students are supposed to be pushed in or pushed out, when their specialists are supposed to come. They coordinate those things within their lesson plan. So these things are like embedded in the day. They also have to communicate with those parents specifically because by law, they have to make sure that there's communication with the families. And then not only that, but they have to make sure that the goals are being met. The goals of the IEP are being met by both themselves and the specialists who are coming in. That's a lot of work on top of the actual work, right? And people forget that because teachers come into the classroom and they look so put together all the time. Not all of them. Let me stop lying. Not all of them, but because some teachers come in the classroom and they look so put together and they look like they handle it. They got it because they do. Most of them do. They got it, right? Y'all don't realize how much teachers have to do. I remember in a preschool classroom that I taught, and I had 20 students. 9 of my students had IEPs. That's almost half my class. That's almost half my class. Not to mention the fact that we're tracking attendance, we're tracking who's coming to school, who's not, because, well, actually, in pre-K, that does not matter by law, but it does matter when you go to make those report cards. You have to track that stuff, right? So it's a lot of stuff that we have to do and that we are responsible for that y'all don't even realize. Y'all think we just up there just teaching. That's all y'all think. Y'all don't think that it's more involved. And that's insulting. It's very insulting. Very insulting. So like that's another thing. Like, come on, you don't even know how many kids she has in her care that have IEPs. You don't know if she have kids that are prone to running. It's kids that run out the classroom, just run out the classroom. You don't know if she have kids like that in her care. But you want your child to get all this special attention because they're doing the wrong thing. And so their behavior is because they're not being communicated with. You don't know that. When other children see that one child misbehaving without a consequence, it will encourage them to join in on the undesired behaviors, creating even more chaos inside of the classroom. And so, with that saying, is that you don't care about the other kids in the class, you just care about your child. The other thing is, usually in preschool classrooms and in kindergarten classrooms, there's an assistant also there teaching. So if you really want a second opinion, you could always talk to the assistant and see what's going on. See what the assistant tried to do to help their child, because I'm pretty sure they tried to step in and help their child once they saw that the teacher couldn't do it. And they couldn't get through to them either. And so that's why the teacher called the parent. Y'all not even thinking about that. That's sad. It's also possible that the assistant called out on the day of this incident. If that is the case, then the classroom was understaffed at the moment. If she called the parent to de-escalate the situation, that means that she saw the parent as a partner. That means that she needed support from the parent in that moment as a last resort. So when you get on the phone as a parent with the teacher and you talk to the teacher that way, what you're telling your child is it's okay for you to go to school and for you to act up. It's okay for you to go to school and not listen to your teacher. It's okay for you to go to school and disrupt your class regardless of how many other children are in that room. It's okay for you to do that because I got your back. That's what you're saying. And so what parents have to understand is that when you're saying that, right? When you're saying that, on the back end, you're also saying that if my child gets hurt because they are not listening to the teacher, that's on my child. If something unsafe in this classroom happens because my child is not following directions, it's on my child. My child is accountable for that. That's what you should be saying, right? But people get it mixed up. What people do is they give their children the okay to act any way that they want to at school, and when something happens that they don't like to their child or with their child, then it's the teacher's fault. But the teacher asks for support from you. And you say, you can't do it all. You know my credentials. You don't know my credentials. You don't know who I really am. She probably don't know who you really are. But I can guarantee you that while she's on the phone with you, hearing you talk to her like that, you're making her understand more and more why your child acts that way. Because you act that way. Because you act that way. Think about your child's future. You cannot have beef with every teacher. If you conduct yourself in manners like this year to year, you will develop a bad reputation, and that will impact your child more than you'll ever know or want to admit. But what the problem is that parents don't want to be interrupted. So you want to be able to have your day to yourself. You want to be able to move around and navigate the world from 8 to 3 when school hours are happening. You want to be able to do that uninterrupted, right? But you also are not willing to support the teacher in making sure that the behavior is changed. What sense does that make? Not only that, but clearly this is something that is a reoccurring issue because she said, usually when I call mom, usually I call mom, usually is the key word. Why is this usual for your child? That's the question you should be asking. Why is this continuously happening with your child? Why, after the first time the teacher called you and mom, why didn't you nip it in the bud then? If you would have nipped it in the bud then, the behavior would have stopped. And then this would not have been something that is usual. It would actually be something that is unusual because you solved the problem at home. So if your kid keeps on coming to school, getting in trouble for the same things over and over and over again, and you know that this is something that usually happens, what are you going to do about it? It's not up to the teacher to fix that. That's something that's happening at home. Because you shouldn't be keep on having the same issue with the same child. I've had my house called plenty of times when I was in school. I ain't never get in trouble for the same stuff over and over again. Wanna know why? Because it got nipped in the bud. And the next time, if I got in trouble, it was for something different. And if it was something that kept on happening, like I did used to talk a lot. So, teachers used to say, oh, you talk too much. My father told me to stop motherfucking talking in class. Maybe after the third time of me getting that same report, I might have got my ass whooped. I mean, that just might have happened. I'm not going to say that's what you need to do, but I'm just going to say that just might have happened to me when I was a kid. So, why is the same issue happening? You're saying behavior is about communication. Where's your communication? What are you communicating to your child that's making her continue to do the same things each and every day at school? But you asking the teacher who's supporting her. It don't make no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. And not only that, but you could possibly be ruining the relationship that teacher has built with your child's other parent. Clearly, you heard the teacher say that usually she's able to talk to mom and mom is able to de-escalate. So mom must be aware of what's going on with your child, right? And so mom already established herself as a partner. Now what you're doing as a parent is you're creating this hostile moment between your child's teacher and yourself. Not only that, but you're filming it and putting it on social media so it can go viral. If I was the other parent, I would be pissed the fuck off. Because I'm putting my child in the care of this teacher, and I want my child to stay safe. I want my child to learn, and I want my child to be happy. How could I expect for those things to happen if you just messed that up because you spoke to the teacher all types of crazy? And then not only did you mess it up because you spoke to the teachers all types of crazy, but you just let our child know that it's okay for her to not listen to the teacher, that it's okay for her to disrupt the classroom. So now, not only are you not trying to even be partners with the teacher, but you're not even trying to be partners with the other parent, because if you were, you would have said, hey, listen, how many times does this teacher have to call you? What is she saying when she's calling you? Oh, okay. Maybe we need to talk to this teacher. You think we should both go to a meeting with this teacher? That's a better way of handling it than to decide you want to curse the teacher out over the phone and then put it on social media. Like, who is that helping? It's not helping your child. It's not helping that teacher. And it's not helping the other parent. So let's go back to the fact that the child told the teacher, I'm not listening to you. You said nothing about that. So you advocating for that. What sense does that make? Then the other thing, it's like the whole let's match credentials. Don't nobody care about your credentials. I'm sorry. Like, I know people are going to be like, why is she so rude? I'm from Philly, for one. So that's just how I talk. And then credentials has nothing to do with it. Okay? Like you said, sir, you're not in that classroom. So you don't see all. You don't know all. So even if you're credentialed down, you still don't know what it is that led up to that teacher calling you, because like you said in your rant, you were not there. So how you can stand on saying that you see a lot of ignoring of your child and you hear a lot of ignoring of your child when you're not even there? And not only are you not even there, but you're not even letting the teacher get a word in edgewise. So you don't even know, like, she can't even explain the situation to you. She can't even begin to explain the situation to you, to even provide you with some sort of a visual, because you're not even listening to what she got to say. So while you are on your high horse being self-righteous, talking about all of the credentials that you have, you don't know the credentials that this woman has. You don't know how many Act 48 hours or whatever. Some states have different things. In Philly, it's Act 48 hours. And that's the hours of professional development that you have to put in order to keep your degree, your certificate current, right? You don't know how many of those hours she put in. You don't know if she's in school for another degree, because some teachers do that. They get multiple degrees while they're in school, while they're teaching, because they're trying to better learn how to better reach your children. Like, you don't know what her credentials are, but you want to put your credentials in there and use them as a way to intimidate the teacher into doing what you want her to do. And like you said, you're not even in there. You don't even see what's in there. You don't even see what's going on in that classroom. You don't know. But only thing you do know is that you're pissed off that this teacher is calling you in the middle of whatever it is that you got to do. So instead of addressing it, you're going to just throw it back on the teacher so that you don't have to address it, which is lazy parenting. Is lazy and borderline neglectful. Borderline neglectful. Like, this man contradicted himself multiple times in this conversation. It's beyond me. When I read the comments and read how many people agree with this man, it's freaking beyond me that people sit up there and agree with somebody acting like a park ape, for a lack of better words. Because we're gonna have to be real. This is my YouTube channel. I'm not sugarcoating nothing. When I go out into the profession, I will speak politically correct. But here, this is it. This is how I'm speaking. Park ape. Park ape. Where you think your child gonna go, like, in life, when they act like that and when you act like that, and then you support how they act? And I understand a lot of people do not trust the school system, and a lot of people do not trust teachers. I didn't either. That's why I became a teacher, because I'm like, hold up, our kids deserve better. But when I got in the field and I saw what was going on and I saw everything they were up against, I have to be honest, parents, y'all play a part in that too. You play a part in it too. And I wasn't one of those teachers that was going to choose, after I graduate, I was going to choose to work in the suburbs. No, why would I do that? Why would I spend all that money on my degree to give kids that already got great opportunities even more opportunities? No, I'm taking my silence to where the kids don't have no opportunities so I can show them something different. That's what most teachers are doing. Most teachers care that much that they want to show your child something different. They want to provide your child with adequate care, high quality instruction. Like, that's what they want to do. But they can't do it because y'all don't do y'all part at home a lot of the times. You got kids that barely listen to you, and then you think they're going to go to school and listen to the teacher? How? How is that going to work? Everybody cannot gentle parent your kids. You are the parent, yes. You can gentle parent, yes. But you have to let your child know, hey, we're going to be gentle in the house. But when you go out there in the real world, and school is the real world, when you go out there in the real world, you're going to have to code switch, because everybody ain't going to be gentle with you. There once was a time when parents told their children, when you leave this house, you're representing me. He told the woman, talk to her like how you would talk to your daughter. Why should she have to do that? That's not her child. That's your child. You talk to her as if she's your daughter, and you de-escalate the situation. She probably has children of her own. And guess what? Her children probably listen to her, because she probably reinforces what she wants in a child at home through everything that she does with her kids. She probably has great kids. Most teachers, they pour into their kids. So while you sitting up there telling her, talk to her like she's your daughter, her daughter will probably never act the way your daughter acted. Ever. And if her daughter did, she probably would know exactly what to do to de-escalate the situation. So really, you tried to throw it on her, but you need to ask yourself, why I can't talk to my daughter like she's my daughter? Why I can't discipline my daughter like she's my daughter? Why can't I guide my daughter in a positive direction? Like she's going to be an adult one day. That's my daughter. I have to make sure she's a functional adult. Why are you not thinking like that? You want somebody else to talk to your kids like they're their kids. Nobody got that type of love for your kids but you. And if you really love them, you would discipline them some. Because you would let them know, listen, the real world ain't going to spare you. People don't just love you just because you exist. That's the truth. That's the truth. And another thing, I don't understand why parents believe that teachers are going to work hard to go against them and their child. Y'all have to understand, and I say this with love, you have to understand you are not important enough for someone to do that. You're not. You and your child are not important enough for a teacher who's only trying to make a living to try to keep coming at you. You're not. Because I can guarantee that teacher has more to lose than someone who would just target you. Okay? That teacher is a mandated reporter. Okay? That teacher has a certification. That teacher has at least one degree. At least. That teacher has a job with benefits that she's trying to keep because I'm pretty sure she has kids that's on her health insurance and dental and eye and vision, all that. That teacher is probably most likely a homeowner. She got way more to lose and way more things on her plate than to be against you and your child. And we didn't even talk about her actual workload. She has to lesson plan. She has to deliver high quality instruction. She has to assess whether the children are learning, meaning she has to prepare small group instructions and different ways to assess your children. She has to make sure your children are learning the things that you're not teaching them at home. She has to make sure that your children are ready for the next grade, whether that's kindergarten in this case or first grade in this case. We don't know if the child is in pre-K or kindergarten. But, you know, she has to focus on that. And not only is she focusing on the preparedness and the readiness of your child, again, she has at least 15 other students that she has to care just enough about too. So nobody's trying to be against you and your kid. It's a much bigger picture than you and your kid. But you think that it's not. That's concerning. A lot of parents operate out of mistrust and trauma. Just because you mistrust the school system does not mean that everybody within the school system is bad, period. Just because you may have had traumatic experiences while you were in school does not mean that your child is going to have those same traumatic experiences. And if we're being honest, some of the traumatic experiences that you may have had in school, you may have very well played into that because you might have been ill-behaved just like how your child is being ill-behaved in this situation. It's not right. And I'm not trying to say that teachers are always right because we do have some teachers that ain't right. We do. But like when I look at this situation, it's no way. It's nothing that this woman said. It's nothing that this woman said in this small clip that makes me think she was against their parent and their child. I'm sorry. And then not only that, but as she's trying to play by your rules, you told her, talk to your child. Let's work together. You intimidated her into doing what you wanted her to do, right? After you did that, she's playing by your rules. She's doing what you want her to do because she's still trying to work with you, even though you disrespected the hell out of her while you talk to her like that. So you just did all that. You got her to play by your rules. She's on the phone thinking that if she plays by your rules, a change might happen. And she might be able to de-escalate this child to the point where she can get back to doing her damn job. And then you hang up. So you cuss her out. And then the phone goes just dead. And I know he didn't mean to hang up order, so I'm not saying he did it on purpose. But she don't know that. She don't know that because she on the phone and she just heard you cuss her out. Do better. Do much better. That's all I have to say. Anybody that has a reaction to this, feel free to put it in the comments. If you don't agree with me, let's talk about it. I love when people don't agree with me. It's like one of my favorite things. Gives me chills. So yeah, let's go. One of the most difficult parts about being a parent is that there aren't any rules. That's exactly why I created parental guidance. This is a home-based curriculum that includes a textbook and an online course. This curriculum was constructed to assist parents in teaching their children about social emotional intelligences. We also key in on executive functioning and positive youth development. This includes self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, building and managing relationships, making responsible decisions, personal development, and self-evaluation. There are 30 lesson plans that include rationale and objectives, discussions and journaling, activities, and ongoing tips for parents. The online course teaches you how to successfully implement this curriculum with your children. Don't you need parental guidance?